Are you ready to feel inspired by hearing other people's stories of how they got from point A to point B? What helped them? What challenged them? What did they learn? What might they know that you haven't yet explored? No matter where you are today on your life journey, there is always hope, and you will always be amazing. My name is Kim O'Neill, and this show will inspire you to keep going. You and your life are worth it.
You're listening to the Everyday is a New Day show. Inspirational conversations with movers and shakers about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. Because that which breaks us becomes a catalyst for what makes us. Now, here's your host, Kim O'Neill.
Before we get into today's show, I have a real quick announcement. My newest book, You Are Loved, an Inspired Meditative Visual Journey, became a #1 Amazon bestseller in April 2019. We have received rave reviews for this one-of-a-kind meditative experiential book that has 39 stunning original photos of Key West, Florida, taken by my co-author, and is paired up with a written guided meditation I wrote specifically to deliver this simple yet so important message that you are loved. This book is a fantastic book for yourself, a loved one, and even as a coffee table book. We're also being told about the success and interest of people using this book with their kids and now introducing them to meditation. To read more about the book and purchase a copy directly through me, simply go to KimO'NeillCoaching.com. That's KIMONEILL coaching.com. Click on the You Are Loved book tab, and then send me an email if you'd like to purchase a copy before they're sold out. And now, here's today's awesome guest interview. Welcome, Bruce Langford. How are you today?
I am great, Kim O'Neill. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. This is such an incredible honor, and I mean honor with an O-U-R because I'm from Canada. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so excited to do this with you. I love your energy and what you are about. And this is fun. This is just fun being in the moment with you. And I'm so grateful everyone's going to be able to enjoy this along with us. So for those who are just getting to meet you for the very first time, I want to go ahead and provide them a little bit of your background. So I'm going to go ahead and read your bio, and then we'll get into the rest of the show.
Sounds great.
Okay, so Bruce Langford is a mindfulness consultant and creator of the top-ranked iTunes podcast, Mindfulness Mode. Bruce is hired by companies to improve corporate culture by replacing stress and anxiety with team spirit and self-respect. As a result of his trainings, employee sick time declines, general wellness improves, and profits increase. Bruce's extensive background for over a decade in bullying prevention equips him through mindfulness to inspire employees to replace self-bullying and judgmental behaviors with cooperation and respect. And that is Bruce Langford just in a tiny nutshell. So I'm so grateful that I get to connect with you today. And there's one word that stands out most to me: self-bullying. Tell me about your journey with self-bullying.
Well, the thing was, I was a teacher in a school, and I loved teaching music. That was my thing. I had the band, I had recorders, I had singing, I had all these fun things I got to do every day, write musicals and everything else. But one thing that was not fun was seeing when kids got bullied or seeing the repercussions of it, seeing kids that were dragging their feet because you knew it was because they were being picked on and being bullied. And there was one particular kid that one day it hit me. You know how those pivotal moments are? And I was out on yard duty and I was supervising the kids, and here's this grade 7 child over by the wall all by himself. And I thought, man, he's in my AV club. He's in my band. This is a very smart, very with it guy that's got everything going for him. Why is he over here standing by himself while all the other kids are playing basketball and having fun? And I asked the other kids, I said, what's going on? And they're like, oh, it's nothing. But the more I asked and inquired, they said, oh, well, it's his accent. I said, his accent? And I listened to him and I thought, what are they talking about? Well, it turned out he had a very minor speech impediment that I hadn't even noticed. And for that reason, he was being bullied and ostracized in the meanest kind of way. And he even went on to do something in a talent show. And as a music teacher, I was in charge of the talent show. And he got on the stage and he did this amazing thing with, like, he was moving to karate because he was a karate guy. And at the end of it, the whole audience booed. And I was so devastated and sickened and disgusted. And I went to the principal and I said, this is not okay. This needs to be addressed with all of the students. And she said, oh, no, don't worry about it. Just don't say a thing about it. Don't pass this on to anyone. Don't tell parents. That's what the culture was like. It was, let's sweep it all under the rug. And then one day I've had enough. I am getting out there. I thought, I can do an anti-bullying presentation, a musical presentation. I'll send out letters to other schools. I'll just make this happen. And I didn't have this created. I hadn't written songs or done this sort of thing for this project, but I just sent out letters to all these other different schools. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. When can you come to our school? Let's book a date. And I had 2 months to write the program, create the concept, create the show. And I wrote all these songs about bullying prevention. And I thought, I need to have an alter ego. I need to make this interesting and exciting for the kids. So I decided to be a DJ, a crazy DJ, a kind of like this character that was very different from the sort of calm teacher Bruce. I was this guy that jumped around and played instruments. I'd grab a saxophone and play a song, and then I'd sing another song. And then I was with radio station ATFM, and we're doing a live broadcast right from your school. And then, oh, we're going on commercial. Now this is a chance I can give out prizes like every radio station to the kids who can answer the skill testing bullying questions. And this was so exciting for the kids because it was a whole different kind of thing than they had ever seen before. And so I got all kinds of requests to be booked for schools, and I just never looked back. For 2 years, I did it half-time because I didn't jump right into it and quit my job immediately. But 2 years later, I did quit my teaching job, and I've never looked back. I've been an entrepreneur ever since and absolutely loved it. Done lots of keynotes and, well, over 2,000 live presentations. So just loved it.
Oh my gosh, Bruce. Thank you. Thank you for providing that to the kids in your, how far did you travel to put these on?
Well, at first, just 2 hours from my home. And so there were hundreds of schools 2 hours from my home. But then I started getting invitations to go to Utah and to other places. And one day I got an invitation to go to St. Thomas. And there's a city named St. Thomas about an hour from my house. And I thought, okay, yes, I've done all the schools there. I'll go there. And then I looked at the email and I go, just a second. This is St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas. And I went there and taught all the kids in the public system. And then I taught kids in private schools and spent all this time, with my suitcases going around, and, all expenses paid at a resort by the public system there. And it was so exciting. But, it wasn't long before I started to realize that mindfulness played a major role in this. And I started to understand how bullying is something we all do to ourselves. It's not just, the other person bullying us. Yes. We do this to ourselves. And that's sometimes the worst, most vicious kind of bullying that happens.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I certainly was not expecting that whole story. You are so multifaceted. So, okay, before we get into the mindfulness, and I totally want to talk to you about that, I want to ask, what was the response that you got from the kids as you were presenting these, what would you call them? Was that like a pep rally kind of event that you put on?
Well, no, I wouldn't call it a pep rally because it was very heavy on education. I was teaching them. I was teaching them what to do if you're bullied, what to do if you are a bully, what do you do if you see bullying and if you're a bystander. And so I taught so much information because I'm a teacher, and I knew that's what I wanted to do, is to create value and teach so much. But yes, in a way, it was like exciting. It was fun. It was like peppy, because I wanted it to be that kind of thing with upbeat music and interesting thoughts and ideas and everything else, and surprises, because that's what we all thrive on. Hit us with a surprise and we remember that, right?
Right.
And so I wanted them to remember the messages, and they did. And at first, I was kind of nervous when I got invited back to schools, because I thought, well, I was just there like a year ago and I'm going back to do the same thing. And, this made me kind of nervous. And then I walked in and the kids are like, it's Benny DL. And, oh, this is great. And then they started singing some of the songs that I had taught the first time. And they're like, oh, it's Benny. And, this is so awesome. Passwords, keep them to yourself, and all this stuff, these songs that I had written. And they remembered the songs, they remembered me. And well, of course, people watch movies over and over, they listen to songs over and over. Why shouldn't they see Benny DL over and over? It only makes sense. But it was so much fun going back, because I remember one school, I was with 7s and 8s, intermediate students, and I did the presentation and we talked about all the things, and I showed them the videos, sang the songs, and I said, so that's it, thank you so much. And they all came rushing forward. They came rushing out of their seats down to just surround me with like 75, 80 students just completely surrounding me, wanting to talk to me, ask me questions, get my autograph. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is really fun, exciting, but so exciting that I knew I was impacting them and helping them with the concepts of bullying and changing their ideas so they knew they were empowered.
Oh, that is just such a special story. I'm so glad I asked you about that. Yeah. So
you didn't know what you were getting into, did you, Kim?
I didn't. But I love that. I've worked with kids in the past too, and I'm a big fan of helping kids to be able to see each other more as allies, and seeing the beauty in their differences, and being able to connect and find ways to play together versus focusing on their differences. So I absolutely love that. And self-bullying is all a part of that. So, or could be. So okay, so beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk about, yes, how you then moved into more mindfulness. How did that journey evolve?
Well, I had a full-time assistant who helped me every day, drove for me, did my setup and my tear down and all that kind of thing. And when I would get into my vehicle afterwards and start writing my blog, I would put on a podcast, or I'd be listening to an MP3 of someone, whatever. And I started to realize more and more, like mindfulness. This is all about mindfulness. If you can teach kids and their teachers to be mindful and what mindfulness truly means, then bullying will decline. It will just naturally decline. We don't have to talk directly about bullying necessarily, because it's about mindfulness. Now, at first, a lot of people didn't see the connection between mindfulness and bullying, but the connection is real. There's a huge connection there. So I started teaching about mindfulness, and then started the podcast, Mindfulness Mode, and then started speaking more specifically about that topic.
Well, I think that's awesome. So share with us a little bit more. What is that connection between bullying to mindfulness that you think a lot of people don't see offhand?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, part of it is living in the moment. And I think most of us realize that mindfulness is about living in the moment, but mindfulness is also about looking at whether you're judging situations, whether you're judging others. And of course, the fact is, as human beings, we do. That's just part of what we're all about. We look at a situation, we immediately judge, or we look at a person, we immediately judge. But the more you can notice that, and then decide, does this really make sense? Do I really want to judge that person? Is that really fair? And then you can begin to not judge people so much. And once you do that, you'll find that you're not judging yourself so much.
Yes.
And that's what naturally happens, because judging ourselves, that's when the inner bully starts taking control and rears its ugly head. And of course, when we judge others, that's bullying, you know, when we act on it, you know, when we look at another person and we have these negative thoughts and then we think, well, you know, I'm going to tell them and I'm going to show them, or I'll do this thing that will get under their skin or whatever it is. That's the bullying that I was addressing at first. And then I started to address that inner bully and teach people that through mindfulness, that inner bully will just sort of fizzle away. And it's not about pushing those thoughts away. It's not about forcing those thoughts not to happen. It's about noticing the thoughts and then just making a decision. I'm not going to entertain those thoughts anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be different from now on.
I think where a lot of that comes in, the placing judgment on other people, is because I think a lot of times, if we're not aware of it, so not being mindful, is we can easily default into comparison mode. Oh, what are they doing? Oh, I don't do it that way. What do I think about that? And all of this, I think, happens in like a split second.
Yes.
We don't even realize how much is going into our perception of seeing someone else and comparing ourselves. And then, oh, they do it better. Oh, does that mean I'm wrong now because I did it differently? And all of that. So that's a brilliant connection between the bullying and mindfulness. I love that. Do you have a personal journey with bullying, or a time when you weren't being mindful yourself?
Oh, I really do. Yes. When I was a kid, I lived with intense anxiety and stress to the point that I was afraid. I had so much fear. I was afraid to speak. I was afraid to be myself. And when I started to go into adolescence, my voice didn't change. And I had this little tiny squeaky little voice, and I was afraid to speak because I knew that people, you know, would look at me like, what's the matter with you? Because sometimes they said that. What's the matter with you? What's the matter with your voice? And I'm like, I don't know. And I was this very outgoing person trapped in the body of a person that felt like he needed to be an introvert. And I wasn't truly an introvert. And I was in pain. I was in incredible pain every day, feeling that there was something inside me I wanted to get out, but I was too afraid because my voice hadn't changed. And I didn't know it was like my voice hadn't changed. All I knew was that I had this squeaky little high voice, and that I felt insecure, and that I felt anxiety. And I felt so much anxiety, and I would ask people, you know, that I trusted, you know, hey, you know, can you tell me, is there something that I can do to change my voice so that I can sound like everybody else my age, you know? And most people said, oh, you know, this is just the way you are. You know, you just have to learn to live with it. I went to guidance counselors. I asked my doctor, I asked different people, and they all said that. And then when I went to college and I decided to take design, I thought this would be the coolest thing to do, to learn design, because I really wanted to do something more like music or teaching. But I thought, well, I can't do anything like that. I can't do anything that requires my voice. So I'll go into design. And I love design, but during that first term, I thought, well, I'll just go and I'll talk to the college doctor. And he said, well, I don't think there's anything wrong, but I can see you're really stressed, really upset about this. So I'm going to make an appointment with the ear, nose, and throat specialist. So he did. And I went to this person, and she said very similar. She said that I don't think there's anything wrong, but she said, I do have this person that I can refer you to. So I went to this other person who is a therapist, and I walked in and I said like 2 sentences. And she said, oh, she says, I know what's wrong with you. She says, I can help you. I can help you find your proper voice. And she said, I can do it with therapy. In less than 2 weeks, you'll have your voice. It'll be dropped down into your natural male voice. And right now you're speaking in a falsetto voice. And there are reasons that this happened, that your voice didn't change. And she said, believe me, she said, it's more common than you realize. There are men out there whose voices didn't drop down and they didn't know why. And you're one of them. And so it just so happened that I was going between the first semester and second semester. And she said, so when the first day of second semester, just walk in with your new voice. You'll be in new classes and new teachers and new profs. And if anybody knows you already, just kind of smile and say, oh yeah, I had a voice issue and this is my new voice. And that's exactly what I did. And it was like a brand new life, Kim. It was like a brand new life. I was like, oh my gosh, I could play music. I could sing songs. I could be a teacher. Oh, wow. And I went out onto one of the main streets in my city, and I started going into restaurants. And I said, I play music. I would love to maybe get a job at your restaurant playing music and singing songs. And I got a job. And then I started doing all kinds of things like this. And before I knew it, like a couple of years later, I had enrolled at another university and started learning music so that I could be a music teacher in a school. And I did. I became a music teacher in a school, and it was like a complete new life.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say. That is such an inspiring story. So who was the Bruce before then, and who was the Bruce after then?
Well, the funny thing you say that, it was the same person. I was the same person, but I didn't appear to be the same person. Like if you had known me, you would have thought, that Bruce before was this very insecure, very quiet, very introverted person who was afraid to speak up. And then afterwards, you would say, oh, there's nothing introverted about this guy. Like he's outgoing, he sings songs, he plays at a piano bar, he does all these things, he teaches in schools, and he has choirs, and so you wouldn't have seen the comparison, but I felt like the same person, even though now I was happy and relaxed and outgoing and able to express myself in a way that I had never been able to before. So it was an exciting new journey.
Wow. What do you think you learned most from that? Were there lessons that came out of that you weren't expecting to learn?
Well, one of them was to just keep going, just be consistent, just keep trying. No matter how discouraged you feel, just keep trying. And I used to have dreams that I would find my voice. I would have dreams that, there'd be something that I'd sort of put in my mouth, into my throat, and somehow magically I would now have this male voice instead of this squeaky little high voice, and it was just a recurring dream. And I kept thinking, okay, maybe I could talk to this person. I could talk to that person. I could ask someone else. And I did ask different people that I trusted. And it just so happened that none of them knew. They just all thought, well, this guy has this high voice and that's all there was to it, until I finally found the right person. And that's really the way we all are in our journey, isn't it? That we just have to keep trying, keep moving forward until things click and we find what works, and then we go with it. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. So you really listened to your inner voice.
Yes, I really did.
And what was the reaction of, say, your family and your close friends at that time?
Oh, such an interesting question, Kim. My mother looked at me, and my father looked at me, and they said, what? My mother said, what did you do to your voice? What's happened to you? And she was disgusted. Like she had this terrible look in her face. And I said the same thing. I said, oh, well, apparently I had a problem with my voice, and, my voice didn't change properly, and now I've got a new voice. And it took her quite a while to accept it. It didn't sit well with her. It was difficult for her to accept that. And other people in my family, didn't really say much, like they're not really like super outgoing in a lot of ways. So they didn't say a huge amount, but other people, like at college, it was no big deal at all. They just kind of like looked at me and then, oh, okay. They shrugged their shoulders. Oh, okay. So he sounds different now. No big deal. And it was me that thought it would be a big deal, but it wasn't that big a deal to most people.
I love that you just said that. It was you that thought it would be a bigger deal than for other people. And of course, other people, they're going to have their reactions and they're allowed to. But, oh gosh. Okay. So, and here you are today. You are now the host of this very successful Mindfulness Mode podcast, using your voice all the time.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I just love getting to talk to so many people like Dan Locke. I just had him on my show, and Andres Pira, who is a 2 times billionaire from Thailand, and so many fascinating people who I'm able to spend an hour or so with, as you know, being a podcaster yourself, and really get to the bottom of what makes them tick. And I love asking questions where they'll often say, Bruce, I can't believe you asked me that, because I've never talked about that in public before. But they want to tell me for some reason, they say, you just make me comfortable that I just want to talk about things. And so that's some of the feedback I've received from being an interviewer on the show.
Yeah, no, you have a wonderful energy, Bruce. I love connecting with you. I'm not surprised that people feel safe sharing with you. So that's awesome. Oh my goodness. What was your intention when you decided, okay, I'm going to get into podcasting. I'm going to try this out?
Well, I started to listen to so many podcasts, and I listened to John Lee Dumas, and I really enjoyed listening to his show and listening to his guests. And he was often talking about, I can teach you to podcast, you can download my free training, and I thought, well, just a second. This could be a really cool way that I could get my voice out there and meet new people and just sort of spread my wings, because I was kind of at the point thinking, I've done bullying prevention for 12 years, and, I'd like to kind of do something a little different but related. Right. And so that's how that happened.
How awesome. Okay. And now talk to us a little bit about the work that you're doing with corporate culture, because that's also really fascinating how you're helping them make shifts.
Well, yeah, I love getting out there and, talking to teams and talking to different people. And that's just fairly new for me, just getting out there and helping people in the business world and in the corporate world. But it's just as exciting as helping kids. It's just different. That's all. Because a lot of kids feel trapped. They feel like, why am I feeling this way? What's happening? And it's the same way in the business world and in the corporate world. There are a lot of people who feel trapped, and they feel, well, I have no choice. I have to come to this job. I have to, do such and such. And they don't understand where the anxiety and stress is coming from sometimes. They want to have a happy family life. They want to do things at work that are successful. And yet, once they understand about mindfulness, they understand more about living in the moment, not judging others so much, and they can start to live this life, then things start to fall into place more for them. Teams start to energize with each other and inspire each other, and they start to be on the same path toward the same goal, so that it works for them, it works for their employer, and the bottom line starts increasing. They start making more money for the company, and they're happier in their family life and their personal life as well. So it's super exciting to be helping people in that way, Kim.
Absolutely. Well, so you just listed so many benefits of why, a company would want to have you come in and really be a resource for their employees. But I'm just curious, have you ever had an employer or business owner be hesitant to bring you in because maybe they've got some sort of fear of oh no, maybe, if I bring someone in who's going to do all these things that helps them, maybe all my employees are going to want to leave?
Well, you know what? That is something that a lot of people have said to me, that, maybe people will want to become entrepreneurs. But the actual fact is, if someone is kind of in that mindset of, I can do more, I can make more of a difference in the world, I can take action. Those are the kind of employees that people want working for them. And if you listen to Grant Cardone ever, he talks about this kind of thing. He says, I want to have the best employees, but if they get to the point where they want to go out and start their own thing, or they want to go to another place of business, want to have a different job, I just say go. Absolutely. That's what creates a healthy work environment. If I, as an employer, encourage my employees, make them feel good, make them feel free to do what they want, go where they want. Now, the fact is, chances are they'll be a happier employee and probably stay with you and be happy while they're with you instead of staying with you and not being happy and feeling trapped. There's nothing worse than employees that feel trapped. Wouldn't you agree, Kim?
I totally agree. Yes, excellent point. And it's one thing to do something that's fulfilling. So maybe someone would perceive, I'm going to leave this job and go be an entrepreneur because that'll be more fulfilling. It's one thing to do something that's fulfilling. It's a completely different thing to be fulfilled while you're doing what you do.
Yes.
And I think what you're doing is you're helping them make that shift and find that fulfillment right where they are. And as soon as they make that shift, I mean, going from feeling trapped to not feeling trapped opens up new thought pathways, new possibilities to, yes, where someone may have been before thinking, I think I want to leave, versus, oh, wait, actually, it's not so bad here. I actually kind of like it. And I don't want to go through the hassle of trying to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Yes. So, that's what happens a lot of times.
Oh, that's awesome. Bruce, what is your take on shifting a mindset into, I mean, we've already kind of been talking about it, but I just want to focus specifically on the concept of positivity. What are your thoughts about shifting into a positive mindset?
Well, we can drag ourselves down by allowing that inner bully to take control. And we can start wallowing in self-pity, wallowing in this thing, oh, I don't have as much as my friends do, or I'm not doing as well as someone else in life. And I just feel so terrible as a result. And yet, if you take control, and you realize, yeah, I'm going to have down days. I'm going to have some days that I'm going to feel fantastic and other days not so much. That's a normal part of life. I don't try to teach people you need to be rah, 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 rah all the time. You need to be upbeat all the time. But the fact is, there is this ebb and flow, and we have a lot of control over it that many times we don't feel like we have control over it.
Right.
And if you feel that you're at that low side of the ebb, that's okay. But get out there, get into nature, start doing some deep breathing, start meditating, or hopefully, if you're into mindfulness, you're meditating already, and that can keep more of a consistency in your life if you're entertaining meditation. And I'm sure you agree with me in this, right, Kim?
I do, and I love that you just made that connection. So, okay, let's talk about that. Mindfulness as a form of meditation. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, meditation causes us to be more on an even keel. It causes us to, so that those ups and downs in life are far less extreme. There still are going to be the ups and downs, the ebb and flow, but doing meditation on a consistent basis is, like, I don't even think there are enough words to describe how much of a change it has brought on in my life since I started meditating about 8 years ago. And at first, for the first couple of years, I meditated every morning and every night. And then I started to just sleep so soundly, and I would fall asleep in like 30 seconds or less. I always thought nobody could fall asleep quicker than my wife, who is amazing at falling asleep. But then I started to as well. And it was because of the meditation. And my mind goes. And a lot of times previous to that, I would wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got this idea. I've got to get up and I've got to write this down and I've got to think about this, and I'll type some ideas, and and I'd be up working for 2 or 3 hours or 4 or 5 hours. But then once I started to meditate, then it changed. I would fall asleep. I would sleep soundly in this full night's sleep. And then I would get up, and then the ideas would flow. And then I would be productive and achieve a lot and be relatively calm about it. And so I thought, wow, meditation has really made a huge difference for me. And then with my clients, I started getting the same kind of feedback. Now, of course, Kim, that with a lot of people, they'll say, well, I just can't meditate. Others can, but I can't because my mind goes too fast, or, they make up things, or they believe things like that their mind is too busy, or their life is too busy, or whatever. And the fact is, I don't think there's a living person on this planet who can't meditate and who wouldn't benefit from meditation.
I am so right there with you, Bruce. So I'm one of those people. 11 years ago, I tried, and it's somewhere, it might even be more than that, but I, at one point, tried meditation and just, I expected to feel something or experience something right away. And I tried it a few times and nothing was changing. And so I thought, okay, well, I just don't know how to do this. I don't like it. I don't understand it. And I let it go until life fell apart and got really crazy. And I was really grasping at straws for something. And I thought, let me try this meditation thing again. And finally, I was able to receive some benefit from it. So I would say it's not something you do just, for a one time and everything's going to change. It is a practice. It's something that over the long haul, you start to experience those benefits. And I know for me, years later, I was able to look back and go, oh my goodness, my experience of meditation today is so completely different than what it used to be. And it's not because I've been monitoring it every day. I decided to say, okay, I see that I'm enjoying this. I'm receiving some inner peace benefits, mindset shifts, some ease that you were talking about. And so that kept me going and experimenting and trying different things along the way. And today my experience is completely different. So I love that you bring that in as a form of being mindfulness.
Yeah. It's true. It makes a huge difference.
Wow. Will you provide us some tips on someone who's just starting to shift their mindset and become more mindful? What are some things that you would share with your clients?
One of the things I think is don't underestimate the power of breathing, deep breathing. And back in November, I started doing Wim Hof. And I don't know if you know who Wim Hof is, but Wim Hof is somebody that teaches, for one thing, he has a breathing method.
Okay.
And so I've started this breathing method, and I tell you, like, it's another thing that has made a big difference in my life. Like, I just have sessions of very deep, very full breathing. And I've noticed that I feel really energetic and I feel well, even through a spell when my wife and son were sick. And usually when my family gets sick, we all get sick, right? Well, this time I just didn't get it. I didn't get sick. And I thought, wow, like a lot of people who do Wim Hof talk about how their immune system builds and they don't get sick when other people do. So they all talked about it. And then I experienced it and I thought, wow, breathing, like really true deep breathing makes a huge difference and can set you up to feel more energetic and more upbeat about things in life. So that's made a big difference for me. So that's one aspect of mindfulness that's very important. I think the meditation, yes, but just that whole idea of just thinking, just stop. As soon as you notice a thought drifting by in your mind that is yucky, mucky, negative, whatever, don't try to push it away or shove it off to the side. Notice it. Be aware of it. And you can say to yourself, geez, where did that thought come from? Oh, yeah, that's a really nasty thought. You know what? I'm going to choose to just let it go. Just let it drift on by, just like the leaves or twigs on the river down by my studio here. They just float away and they drift on by. And I think that analogy, because I think that's really important. I think for a while, like years ago, I would become dismayed when I'd see or notice some of those thoughts. And I think, oh, that's terrible. I shouldn't be thinking that. I'd try to push them down and I'd cause stress and anxiety without even knowing it.
Well, and the other thing, I just, sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to point out that if we find ourselves moving into that place, right, going, oh no, why am I thinking this, and getting all wrong about it, that can start us down the pathway of that self-bullying.
Yeah, totally. I believe that completely.
Wow. So excellent tips. And I'm a huge fan of the deep breathing. It's amazing what a difference some deliberate deep breathing can have. So yes, love that one. Bruce, I love talking to you, and I can totally see us doing this again at some point, but we are reaching, towards the end of today's conversation. Will you share with us, how can our audience reach out to you and connect with you after this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can email me, bruce@mindfulnessmode.com. And I'd love it if you just had a little visit to Mindfulness Mode, and you can visit me on iTunes or on Spotify or so many different apps. Like, there are just all kinds of podcast apps out there, but it's just simply Mindfulness Mode. And I'd love to have you join. And yeah, definitely email me and connect with me, and send me a little message about how you like the show, or if you have thoughts about mindfulness. I'd love to hear from you. I reply to emails as much as I possibly can.
Wonderful. And Bruce, I didn't ask you this. Let's end with this. What's next for you? What are you working on? Where are you headed?
Well, I'm working actually right now on a group, like a paid group that will be sort of like a mastermind kind of idea. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on doing more consulting, and really excited about doing more speaking and more consulting and more work in the area of consciousness and mindfulness. I find that fascinating, and I love interviewing scientists who work in that field of consciousness.
Yes.
That's something that we didn't used to see, but now we notice that scientists are working in this field as well.
Oh, that's so exciting. I agree. Every time I see science confirming some of these things that non-scientists have been working towards and sharing with the world, it's always very exciting to see.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for being here today. I, again, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And for all those listening, please let us know what you're taking away. Wherever you're listening to this or viewing this, then go ahead and type below and let us know what you're taking away and how this interview has impacted you today. Look forward to connecting with you again on future shows. You can find out more going to KimO'NeillCoaching.com or on Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching, the Everyday is a New Day show and coaching page. You can connect with me there. And I hope you will remember that every day truly is always a new day. And by taking time to be mindful and to step into that space of observing your thoughts and not allowing yourself to go down that self-bullying pathway or bringing yourself down because you had a thought that didn't feel so good. It's okay. Like Bruce was saying, we have these ebbs and these flows. It's okay. It's what's natural for all of us. And it just takes a moment to shift and be more mindful and making a different choice for what that next thought is going to be. Thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening today. If you found value in this episode, be sure to rate and review it on iTunes and subscribe so you can continue to be inspired and feel supported on your journey forward. Remember that every day truly is a new day. The more you practice saying yes to yourself, being open to your life's gifts through your lived experiences, the more you find yourself in the rhythm and flow of life. And that's just the beginning of how much more beauty is ready to unfold for you. Subscribe to the Everyday is a New Day show on iTunes and connect with me after the show over on Facebook on the Everyday is a New Day show and coaching page, where I also go live with many of my guests on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or follow the show on Instagram at Everyday is a New Day show. Let me know what you're taking away from today. I'd love to know. I'm your host, Kim O'Neill, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.